Welcome back to the Midnight Gospel, where we fall asleep into dreaming of being there in our favorite Bible stories. Tonight, we begin with the story of Mary, walking to the hill country to visit her cousin Elizabeth. Two mothers, waiting in the quiet, their meeting held in the gentle hush of Luke chapter 1. These aren't sermons. They're stories retold slowly, so your breath gets softer, your worries set down beside you, and your heart remembers home. This video was made to help you drift to sleep, not by forgetting God, but by coming closer, like slipping into an old shawl or resting your head against a window puffed with cool evening air, just being near something holy. Tonight, let your mind wander with us. Picture two women in a stone house, clay cups on the table, footsteps on the cool floor, softer with each step. There is no hurry. The night is wide. You are safe. Even if you fall asleep before the end, the story will keep walking with you. That's the promise. Holy things are patient, quiet, always willing to wait at the edge of your dreams. You don't have to listen closely. Just let these moments settle into your breath. The story is here for you however long you need. The morning is small, hardly a whisper past night. Light slips into the room by degrees, quiet as hope itself, while Mary lies on a mat laid gently across worn stone. Linen rustles around her shoulders, weightless, cool. The air moves in soft breaths, brushing the floor, rising to greet the waking world. She draws breath slow and deep, in, out, the rhythm steady and even, as if the dawn itself waits for her to join. Each breath lets the silence grow, wide and calm and safe. From outside, the low bleating of a lamb carries in, a sound before words, gentle as a mother's hush. The animals awake before the people, and the day opens patiently. Mary's eyes are half shut, her body warm inside her blanket. No one calls her name, not yet. The world doesn't move quickly here. There is a space between rising and going, a silent yes between the night and morning. She listens for it, her chest rising, falling, rising again. The village breathes too, carts empty, unmoving, still resting against stone walls. The faint sound of sandals, somewhere distant, scuffs against pebbled ground. Smoke has not yet begun to curl from the neighbors' roofs. A rooster, uncertain, calls his song into the middle air. Let this moment stretch. Nothing to do but notice the softness around you. Even Mary, chosen, watched, blessed, has mornings where she simply lies there, keeping company with the stillness. The weight of a hand resting on her own stomach, gentle, alone. Every part of the house is holding its breath. Pitchers on the shelf, woven baskets ready for figs, the shadow of a broom against the wall. There will be tasks, fetching water, folding cloth, bread left to rise, but not yet, not now, not while the sky is this quiet. Mary breathes again, slow and full, in, out. The air feels both cool and kind. Even at the edge of something new, she lets herself wait. She is not in a hurry. There is time for every step, time to listen to the birds waking in the tree just outside her window, let the quiet stay. Even this silence is holy. A neighbor's shutters creak open, but softly, trying not to startle the peace. A goat nudges at the courtyard gate, and Mary hears the small click of hoof on stone. The world is so simple in these first minutes, like the inside of a prayer where nothing is spoken but everything is known. She sits up slowly, drawing her knees close, feeling the blanket fall in folds around her. The floor is cool beneath her feet. Her breath matches the day's beginning, not rushed, not measured, just enough. Sometimes the smallest beginnings feel the fullest, the first loaf of bread rising, the hush after rain, the trust that morning will always follow night, no matter what came before. Let yourself stay here with Mary in this quiet. You don't have to listen closely. Every ordinary breath is enough. Outside, another door opens. A sleeping dog stirs. Life gathers itself quietly in corners. Sunlight, soft and pale, slips across the walls, turning everything gold before the world remembers it must be anything else. No miracles, not here, not yet. Just the promise of presence and a girl not yet ready to rise, breathing slowly again and again, held in the silent goodness of the morning. Let this gentle waking keep you company. The night listens with you. The world was quiet even for a village. There was not much light in the sky yet. One or two birds chattered, but gently, as if embarrassed at how early it was. Mary rose from her mat before the others. Her feet found her sandals in the half-dark. The air was cool and soft, pressing gently on her arms, reminding her she was small but safe inside something wide and quiet. She traced the familiar path through the courtyard, past a basket still dusted with yesterday's flour. Each step was a soft tap, sandal to stone, sandal to dirt. There was no rush. The chores would wait for her. At the well, the stone lip was cold against her skin. Water's hush echoed up, far below, the hollow drip, the hollow plink, the hollow drum. She tied her veil a little closer, the clay jar pressed against her knee. Always the same every morning. She let out a long, silent breath. Above her, a wisp of cloud stalled in the pale sky. The well waited too. Lowering the jar, the rope slid through her fingers, scratchy and firm. Low, then lower, the jar met the water with a slow, muffled splash. A pause, then the sound bubbled up, gentle and hollow, drips from somewhere deep. Even this silence was holy. The rope was heavier now, the jar filling itself in the unseen dark. Drops trickled down, plink, drip, tap against the clay. In those sounds, a steady safety, a rhythm, always the same. Slowly the jar came up, heavy, arms ready for the weight. The wet clay was cool on her hands. Some water spilled down the side, just a little, the soft run tracing her wrist. No one else was here yet. Let this moment stretch. No need to hurry. The only task, breath in, lift, step. She set the jar on the well's rim for a while. The world was waking, but not to her. Morning light crept along the ground. She touched her palm to the jar, cold from the well, wet from the spill. The sound of her own breath, slow and simple. Another woman appeared, quiet, eyes soft with sleep. They nodded, no words yet. Only the sound of water, hands on clay, and rope being wound back into its coil. The ground felt smooth under her feet, the path home familiar as her own name. Each step steadied the jar's weight against her hip. Mary's arms knew this work. There was comfort in the sameness every day. A little splash from the shifting water, a trickle down past her elbow. It wasn't much, but she smiled anyway. The day could begin easily, one quiet motion at a time. Let even this silence stay with you. When someone passed, they nodded and kept going. Here everything was ordinary. Water fetched, breath drawn, clay pressed against skin. By the time she reached the house, the jar was half empty, water lost to the path, but still enough. She set it down in the same spot as always. No one noticed the prayer inside her chest, but it was heard. She rinsed her hands in what was left. Drops fell to the ground, made tiny circles in the dust. The sound was gentle, like rain that never meant to stay. The moment stretched by itself, uneventful and safe. Another morning stood waiting. The village was stirring, but the piece of water at dawn clung to Mary like a thin, sweet shawl. She watched the drops on her wrist dry in the light, then walked slowly back inside. The night listens with you, even as the day begins. The bench by the fire was dusted with flour and still warm from the first light. Someone had woken early, maybe Elizabeth, or the neighbor girl who helped, or maybe just the sun itself, drawing slow beams across the stones. Their quiet footsteps had already carried water from the well, the pitcher resting in the corner, sweating a little in the soft morning chill. The dough was simple, just flour and water, a bit of salt if there was some left today, nothing more. You could almost make it in your sleep. Scoop, pour, stir with fingers that still felt the shape of yesterday. The flour smelled alive somehow. New, handfuls grew soft as you pressed them against the bowl, air turning heavy with the scent of crushed grain. A trace of yesterday's baking hovered near the hearth, mingled with the dry, easy smoke from last night. There was comfort in the way it clung to the quiet. Elizabeth's hands moved the way she always did, patient and gentle, as if the bread would only come if you invited it slow. Mary watched her cousin, learning how to carry the bowl against her hip, lean against the smooth stone, then turn, careful not to lose any of the sleep-warm flour clinging to her wrists. From outside, there was only the smallest stir. Someone's child laughing in the courtyard, a pot clattering, but in this corner time folded in. Everything became small and steady, the silence almost settling over the dough, making it heavier, sweeter. Mary's own hands joined. They pressed palm into soft dough, then again, fold, lean, press, fold, again. The sound was soft, a barely there rhythm, quieter than a song. It was easier this way when you let the world narrow to only dough and hands. Her heart found a pattern. One and two, and fold. The bread didn't hurry. Neither did they. There was only the bench and the bowl and the cool edge of sunrise at their back. Each morning felt almost the same, as if nothing was changing. But still today was quieter, smoother somehow, like a field before the footsteps or a prayer before the words. A little flower floated up, catching new beams of gold. It settled on Mary's sleeve and dusted the hair near Elizabeth's cheek. The two women smiled, though no one spoke. Sometimes the silence felt fuller than talking, a small kind of music that you only noticed by its gentle weight. Out beyond the door the village was waking. Chickens, dust, a distant voice calling for bread. But here the world was as small as the flatbread, round and warm between their hands, waiting for the next slow turn. Let this moment stretch. Mary watched the grain change, that heavy clump slowly letting go, becoming softer in her touch. The scent shifted, too, a deeper, toasty smell, as if the promise of breakfast lived in the very heart of the bread. She let her breath slow, matching her cousin's quiet pace. The hearth glowed dull red under the ashes, and heat rose in gentle waves, emptying the night from the kitchen. No one rushed. The dough rested in a shallow bowl, left to wait, just enough time for the women to kneel, fingers brushing hair from tired faces, or to look outside, counting the birds at the cistern. Even the silence is holy. Mary dipped her cloth in water, careful not to work too quickly. She cleaned the table in slow circles, gathering bits of stray flour, finding comfort in the repetition. The tasks of mourning, so small, so known, became a kind of cradle, a rhythm to carry her until rest called again. Elizabeth moved nearer, placing her hand on her belly for a quiet moment. There was a hush between them, like a gentle question. "Are you afraid?" The answer, if it came, was silent: warmth from the fire, the deep smell of grain. A loaf on the stones began to color. The faintest crackle came, almost hidden beneath the sound of water boiling down the hall. Elizabeth took the edge of her shawl to lift it high, steam resting for a breath on the window. "Let the night listen with you." A bite from the first loaf was still hot, almost too hot, but the taste was everything that mattered: grain and salt, smoke and fire, the memory of the field and a hand passing down a bowl. No one said, "This is holy," but Mary's eyes closed and she felt the quiet in her bones. She swallowed slow, and for a moment her heart was as calm as the hillside in dawn's gentle sun. In the hush that followed, Elizabeth whispered, almost too low to hear, "He asked for nothing and still felt full." Between them the rest of the world narrowed. Just the sound of their chewing, the beating of two hearts, the promise of warmth and safety. Even if morning would soon bring its new fears, or the world would ask for more, this hour belonged to them and to God, and to the peace found in kneading and waiting and folding dough by hand. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. With another loaf on the stones and the day unfolding soft as a blanket, Mary leaned back. Her eyes blinked in the heat, lids heavy, mind floating. Sometimes this was how she remembered the goodness of God, not by miracles, but by the way breakfast came sure and slow, carrying the day's peace on its breath. The smell of baked bread anchored her to old kindnesses, and to the hope that morning, too, could be holy, quiet, and uneventful, but sacred still. And in that gentle quiet, God waited with them as the bread cooled and the world around them softened to sleep. The sky was barely awake, its colors soft and unsure, waiting for the sun. Mary wrapped her shawl tight, feeling the quiet hum of morning press against her skin. All around her, the world moved in gentle ways. Step by step by step, each footfall settled in the dust. The earth rose in tiny clouds, then fell back, softer than before. Little pebbles shifted. A ribbon of path stretched ahead, leading toward the cool blue line of hills. She kept a steady pace, not fast, never rushed. Every step found its place, as if the old road was built just for walking slowly. Stones kept their secrets. Shrubs along the edge caught the wind and brushed her dress. Olive trees reached crooked arms overhead, their leaves whispering a song only she could hear. Step, 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 the rhythm became her prayer, simple, grounded, reliable. Mary breathed in cool air, felt it tuck softly into her chest and breathed out. The sound of her feet matched the rise and fall of her breath. Nothing hurried her. The village rooftops behind her faded into morning. Birds fluttered nearby, dipping between olive branches. Their wings made tiny sounds like fabric folding in an empty room. Their calls stayed low and plain, not loud or wild, just old friends, marking another day's beginning. In the distance, someone else's laughter drifted, then disappeared. Mary's steps and the silence around them became part of a slow, warm pulse. Sometimes she saw her own footprints where the ground was soft. Sandals left cool shapes, soon smoothed over by a passing wind. She wondered just for a moment who would walk here next, but let the thought fall away. There was only this moment. Step, step, step. The path curled upward, leaving vineyards and barley behind. Shadows stretched out and grew thin as the sun moved higher. Her shadow walked ahead of her, then beside her, then behind. None of them hurried. Even the shadows were patient. Even the dust settled gently where it landed. She passed a patch of wildflowers bending in the breeze. Their soft heads nodded as if blessing every footstep. The petals closed and opened, not to be noticed, just to be. Mary watched them for a few breaths, then walked on. The world carried her forward in its quiet way. Every so often she stopped to drink, letting water slip down her throat slow and cool. The jug was heavy, but her hands knew the weight. In the stillness she could hear her heart thudding in time with the walking footstep, breath, heartbeat, breath, like a lullaby that stretched and softened as the day moved on. Farther down, two goats wandered across the trail. They blinked and moved aside as if they, too, respected the pace of her journey. She nodded to them, small, silent, nothing special, and kept going. Step, step, step. There was no need to wonder how much farther. The journey itself filled her with a quiet, steadying peace. Nearby, a fig tree cast gentle shade over smooth stones. Mary paused in its shadow, not because she was tired, just because the moment felt safe and whole. The leaves trembled, caught by a slow breeze. She let herself rest, leaned against the trunk and listened. When she began to walk again, her steps found the same even rhythm. The road curled softly uphill. The hills ahead waited, calm and unmoved, as if they had always been there for women like her. The walk was long, but the journey was simple, step after step, breath after breath. Nothing was hurried. Nothing was lost. Let this moment stretch. Let the quiet walk become part of your breath. All around, the world keeps its slow, steady pulse. The night listens with you. The path holds you, gently and sure, just as it did for her, and the footsteps go on, soft as prayer. The sun rose slowly while Mary walked, her sandals pressing into the familiar roughness of the path. The hillside was quiet. It was morning, and no one hurried. The stones that lined the way had been there for longer than anyone could remember, small, pale, warm when the day turned late, and cool under the shadow. Each step pressed her heel into the earth. A soft crunch, then quiet again. Nothing except the sound of her own movement, the steady rhythm of feet touching stones, the small slide of pebbles nudged aside. These stones saw everyone who passed by. Families going to the well, merchants leaving before dawn, children skipping, then mothers and grandmothers tracing the same way, stones rubbed smooth by sandals, by bare toes in summer, by carts and feet in every season. No one talked to the stones, but everyone knew them. The way each one fit underfoot was a little different. Mary noticed that, but did not stop. A bird landed near the path. He pecked at something invisible, then fluttered away. The air on the hill was thin and gentle. The silence was all around, but not empty. She heard her own breathing. She let the sound grow. It was allowed here. Stones and silence, her only company for a time. Long ago, men stacked these stones to line the way. Some had slipped out of place, years ago maybe, and stayed just where they fell. Lichen grew on the north side of the largest ones, sometimes green, sometimes white as frost. In the cracks, tiny weeds clung fast. The path was never finished, never perfect, just worn soft at the edges from all the years. Mary's shadow stretched behind her. Once she tapped a stone loose by accident. It rolled just a little, bumping into others. No one noticed but her, and still she stooped, lifting it carefully back where it had rested, nearly as if she could not step past without fixing this small thing. The world was quiet, but not without care. She walked past a place where goats sometimes wandered. The stones here were scattered, picked up and set back down by children playing endless games while their mothers watched, quietly spinning wool or peeling figs in the shade. Every few steps the silence deepened. There was bird song softly, and always the hush of her own mind counting the stones. Not really counting, just noticing. One smooth, one rough, the next cracked open from last winter's frost. Each one a small history of the way. Let this moment stretch. Even the breeze pauses here, between stones. From behind an old fig tree, a dog barked, but only once. The sound did not last. Mary pressed her hand to her belly, feeling the familiar steady weight, and stopped a moment. She looked ahead. The path unwound quietly up the next hill, empty of people. Rocks, dirt, a flick of green weeds. Sometimes she wondered who walked here last and whether they were glad for the quiet. Men carrying heavy loads rarely looked down. Women from Nazareth might have noticed the same cool stone, the same patch of yellow grass at the side. Maybe someone had sung quietly to themselves once. The stones had held onto that, kept it safe, the silence fat and full, the memories tucked away like seeds. Let your breath slow with the morning. The path bent near a stand of wild thyme. The scent was sharp, then faded quickly when the wind changed. Mary stepped over a broken sandal strap left near the edge. Someone else had stopped here, bent down, and kept on. She thought of Elizabeth waiting, perhaps at this very hour, in her small courtyard far ahead, and she kept walking. In the distance, a shepherd whistled. Sheep bells rang, and then it was quiet again. The hillside let the silence have its shape. The stones held their secrets, warm from the first edge of sunlight, then turning cool as the shadows reached over them. Mary's hand brushed the rough wall that lined the way, felt the grains of dust catch on her skin. She paused, let stillness sit beside her. No one hurried. There was enough time for silence, enough space for stones to rest where they were, enough for Mary as well. She did not rush. Her steps marked the ground, and the silence drew wider like a blanket. The story walked with her, soft, slow, sacred, woven into the quiet spaces no one else saw. Stones listened. Silence held her, and the day stretched on, uneventful as breath. The path curved beneath olive shadows. The morning had shed its chill, but not its quiet. One sandal in front of the other, cloth bunched in her palm, Mary walked, her heart beat slow as the land. Sometimes the dust was soft. Other places it was packed and bright, crunching gently as she stepped. Each sound felt honest. Sandaled feet, air slipping through branches, the distant hum of insects drifting between the wild herbs. Even her own breath, steady and plain, joined the silent prayers of the fields. Just over a low rise the road dipped, leading her eye to a patch of sun-warmed stones. There a traveler sat. Not far, just near enough that politeness required the smallest pause. His hair was dust-crusted, face open but weary, elbows resting on his knees. An old woven satchel sat by his side. Quiet met quiet. She slowed. He nodded. The hush between them felt as wide as the hills. Mary slipped the rough bundle down from her shoulder. Inside, two small fruits. figs, sun-thickened and dark at the seams. Their skin was wrinkled, giving beneath her thumb. She turned them over softly, feeling the weight, the gentle stick of syrup on her fingers. The skin gave, stretching, then tearing with a hush. That sound, quiet, like peeling away dusk. She offered him one, open palm resting where his hand could see it. He didn't reach right away. He waited as if tasting rest in her silence. "Thank you," he whispered. The words sank flat into the space between them. She watched his fingers, worn and gentle, take the fruit. The flesh parted slowly, an earthy sweetness rising, cool and rich against the morning air. He broke the fig open. Seeds glistened, pale and sleepy in the early sun. Mary smiled, but not too much. Too much would be noise. She took her own, thumb rubbing the thin scar at its top, and tore it once, twice. The skin split quietly, surrendering to her touch. The sound was soft, a breath more than a crack. Inside, the fruit's heart was pink and full, tiny seeds held together in sticky sleep. She pressed a shy bite to her tongue. It tasted like sunlight remembered, a small sweetness at the edge of her mouth, grounding her to the day. The man ate too, sharp teeth slow, slivers of fig disappeared bit by bit. No hurry. The silence made space for them. Let this moment stretch. Mary watched, sometimes only the corners of his eyes, the way his shoulders softened with each mouthful. She could hear his chewing, low and quiet. Not messy, just careful. He ate like someone grateful for company but not used to it. Each bite landed softly. The sound of fruit skin yielding, the gentle working jaw, the untwisting of loneliness with every swallow. She let her eyes wander. Beyond his shoulder, a patch of wild chamomile nodded in the gentle air. One small clump of green, dusted in yellow. There was no need for talking or sharing names. Just the slow, sacrament-like breaking of figs. The air smelled mineral bright, a memory of the morning's first sunbeam on river stones. The road waited for both of them, but not yet. Even this silence is holy. Mary's cloak brushed the ground. She set the fruit stem aside, letting sticky juice dry on her palm. Each detail etched itself into the quiet. The sticky sweetness, the softness at the center, a seed tucked between her teeth. She noticed the man's hand tremble as he finished, not with fear but relief. He wasn't looking for words. He just needed to be seated beside someone who would not ask much. She let herself become as still as the morning, listening for nothing. There was a breeze, low and catching, at the wild grass. It brought the faint, ripe scent of figs, syrupy and clean, folding into the scent of distant earth. Another bite, slow, teeth squeezing the filling, cool and laced with sun. She swallowed quietly. No one hurried here. She let her breathing match the man's, each inhale loose, each exhale a letting go. The shade deepened as a small cloud crept over the sun. Gray filtered through the branches above, and the world pressed softer around them. The slow eating became its own prayer, not for anything, just because. Two people, unremarkable. Two people sharing fruit on a forgotten day. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. Somewhere in the near distance, a flock of sheep rattled their bell collars, ambling by with their own mild, earthy rhythm. The sound didn't interrupt. It folded in, a sign that life went on quietly as it had for generations and would for generations to come. There was a safety in that, something ordinary and enormous at once. Mary let the silence fill her eyes, her mouth, even her hands, now resting sticky and open in her lap. She glanced sideways at the stranger. He stared at the road, the eaten fig in his palm, cracked open and hollowed, as if it too was content to be emptied and held. He asked for nothing and still felt full. She let herself feel that fullness too. The way it bloomed just under her ribs, not of food, but from being seen and not hurried. There are some days, common as dust, where sharing a thing with another makes the entire day lighter. No words required, only the warmth of nearness. Mary felt the edge of that blessing settle over her. She took the last bit of fig, let it rest on her tongue, and rolled its sweetness slowly, making it last. Her jaw moved, yet she was thinking only of the shade, the coolness, and another's company so soft it almost became a second silence. Let this quiet hold you, the man gathered his satchel. Mary brushed the grounds of the fig from her palm. He nodded once, soft, grateful. She nodded back, lifting her eyes to the sky, briefly streaked with drifting clouds. It was a simple harvest, a tiny communion both would carry all morning. And so she rose, alone again, the echo of company still humming in her steps, the sweetness of shared fruit, sticky soft in memory, lingering like the hush after prayer. There was no celebration, no spectacle. The day simply continued, walking toward Elizabeth, one footset, one breath at a time. The night listens with you, let your thoughts become slow, let the sweetness linger. Even boredom is blessed here. Olive trees make a kind of slow shade. It's never just one tree. There are always more, stretching in their soft, patient way down thin, dusty hills. This is where your steps go quiet, sandals moving slow on a path, a day beginning, a servant carrying a bundle, maybe wrapped bread or a folded piece of cloth, the kind kept ready for work or for wiping sweat and dust from your brow. The air hums the way fields do in the morning, before the world is fully awake but after the lamps have all gone out. You can hear your own quiet breathing here. Inhale, and shade wraps softly around your face. Exhale, and a thread of sunlight finds your skin and sits there, gentle and warm. Sometimes you walk a little slower, just to let the coolness last a few moments longer. Beneath the olive trees, you notice things that don't ask for attention. A loosened stone, fallen olives tucked into the cracks of old roots, the steady rhythm in the branches, leaves rattling but not really moving, a shimmer more than a sound. Someone far ahead is laughing, but the sound ends before it reaches you. Here, the world covers its mouth and speaks in a whisper. There's the memory of bread baking far away, the weight of dew on the ground, and the distant promise of birdsong refusing to hurry the morning. You keep breathing slow, one cool breath under the boughs, one quiet sigh, like the air is rocking you gently into a soft waking sleep. You press your palm to the rough trunk, feel the pattern made by rain, sun, and hundreds of silent afternoons. That tree has seen everything. It does not rush. All those stories held inside the rings. You don't have to do anything but stand beside the stillness. Shade holds you. You wonder if the mothers, Mary and Elizabeth, touched this place too. Maybe they paused here to rest. Maybe they let the peace find them, this same slow breath calm, the air humming beneath breath. Even if you never saw it, you understand it. No words needed, just the company of a shaded path and time to let your mind wander. Let this moment stretch. The light between leaves becomes a thin gold river, moving slowly across your arms. You slide your feet in the dust, feeling the soft resistance, and it's almost like floating. Every so often, a fly buzzes by, but even the insects are sleepy, humming like a faded memory that never quite arrives. Sometimes you pick up a smooth stone holding its weight in your palm. It's nothing, just a piece of earth, but it feels cool, safe, ordinary, like something that will never leave. You toss it to the side of the path and watch it settle in the weeds undisturbed. The world does not notice, but it is good to let things go. A breeze comes from nowhere, quiet and slow. It brushes past your cheek and lays the branches down to rest. You breathe it in, the clean smell of leaves, the taste of morning on your tongue. Inhale shade, exhale sunlight. Stay as long as you like. No one is waiting. Even the sky is in no hurry. Sit if you want to. The grass is only a little wet, the ground only a little cold. You tuck your legs beneath you, letting the shape of the earth tell your bones to pause. You might close your eyes even for a moment to hear the humming better. It sounds like life happening slowly all around you, unseen, unhurried. A far-off bell rings, swallowed by leaves and distance. The grove does not wake up right away. Olive trees are patient. They do not force the sunrise. You could stay here until you forget what you were carrying. You could let tomorrow come when it comes. Let this shade be a shelter. Let the gentle air hold you just below the edge of thought. No one needs you for the next breath. Rest here and let the story keep walking quietly beside you. Even this silence is holy. The night and the day listen with you. It's midday, and the sun has finally worked its way up, gentle, not fierce, not today. Mary's sandals are dusty from the road. She's carried her quiet for hours, listening to open, empty fields, the soft crunch of small stones beneath each slow step. The world feels gentle when you walk without hurry. No one is expecting Mary before sundown. The path stretches on, as if it has nowhere to end, and that makes her smile just a little at how much can happen when you have time to notice it. There's a well off to one side. It isn't deep, but the cool shape of it is enough to promise rest. Mary drifts closer. The stone is smooth on top, worn down by thousands of hands, hundreds of afternoons. She sits, folding her hands lightly on her lap. She feels the ache of muscles, the simple fullness of letting go, the faint ring of water deep below, a memory, not a sound, a place to rest that asks nothing of her and fills her just the same. Around her, the fields are soft with silence. A few birds dart between olive branches. Somewhere someone is laughing far away, and the breeze carries it off before it can mean anything. She listens, weighing nothing, holding no plans. For a while, Mary just breathes. Each inhale cool, grassy. Each exhale slow, letting her care fall, pebble by pebble, into the wide, waiting quiet. Let this stretch. Let this moment settle in. Sometimes she closes her eyes and feels the sun touch her face, bright soft through her lashes. One palm rests over her belly. The path is nowhere now, there is only here. Waiting is no longer a chore or a question or a wait. It is simple. Every so often, Mary feels the faint shifting within, but even her child is quiet, as if the hush has been shared between them. Stillness overtakes hurry, says nothing, and says everything. No one rushes her. Nobody sees her. For a little while, Mary becomes part of the field itself. She doesn't pray with words, not now. The pause becomes the prayer. She simply is, like the well, like the distant fig trees, like the breeze. The pause can last as long as the day needs. Silence is not empty here, it's full, and she lets it be. A little time to soften, to drift. If sleep wants to come, let it. If it's just a rest, let it stretch further. Mary welcomes the nothing between one task and another, the open space where God is somehow most near. Even the shadows grow softer. The well stays cool. Mary unfolds her hands, stands, and listens, not for any voice, but for the feeling that the moment is done. She moves on quietly. The rest stays with her, like water enough for the next part of the road. It was a slow morning. The low sun crept over the hill just enough to warm the stone yard. Mary moved through quiet. She picked at the hems of her garments, dust clinging from yesterday's road. There was no hurry in her hands. Every action felt practiced, each motion gentle, safe, and old. She shook the cloth once, twice. The dust loosened, falling in light, lazy clouds. A tunic lifted, then settled again. Only the sound of distant doves, the small, regular hush of fabric moved and set aside. Could you feel the way her breathing matched the rhythm, in and out, slow and even, as if the world itself moved on the same gentle tide? She smoothed the tunic along her knee. Fingers pressed the fibers without force, working little creases in the linen. Shake, smoothly fold. Shake, smooth, fold. The movements repeated, slower each round. Her world was as narrow as the cloth on her lap. Stillness was a visitor here, quiet but certain. Let this moment stretch. You're safe. The morning goes nowhere in a hurry. Mary gathered the edge of the tunic, shook away another fine sift of sand, and folded it once more. Always with two hands, straightening, tucking, never rushing. The dust is part of the day, and so is the care in removing it. She let her mind go silent, just the sound of folding, just cloth easing into shape. Even this silence is holy. In the cool air she pressed and pressed with firm, steady palms. The fabric held warmth from her touch. It was only a tunic, no one's eye on her, no one counting the folds. Yet every smoothing was a quiet kindness, every crease a way to make tomorrow softer. Fold, smooth, fold. Sometimes she let the cloth rest in her lap while the world went still around her. Nothing special happened, only this. The repeated effort, the dust lifting, the cloth gentled, a tunic clean, a mind at peace. The work was its own prayer, silent between hands and breath. Let your own breath ease. With the last fold, Mary stacked the garment among the rest. She leaned back against the wall, knees drawn up under her chin, drowsy in the shaded yard. The faint smell of linen, the memory of the road, the promise of rest at the end of things well tended. He asked for nothing, and still felt full. She sat a while longer, listening for nothing, letting it all settle. The day would go on, but for now there was only the sound of quiet labor and the warmth of saved stillness. The night listens with you in the hill country. The day turns quietly. As noon drifts toward afternoon, the air shifts almost without notice. In the small house where Mary and Elizabeth sit, the walls catch patches of sunlight, then lose them, then find them again. Shadows stretch, reaching a little farther each time. The clay floor grows cool under bare feet. No one hurries. There's no reason to. Outside, a donkey flicks its tail. Its long shadow crawls across the courtyard. Inside, the smell of baking bread floats through half-open doors, mixing with the faint sweetness of crushed time. It's just another hour, just another passing drift of light and shade. Elizabeth leans back, her hand resting on her belly. Her eyes linger on the corner where morning's small, square shadow has become a wide, soft stain. Mary, sitting beside her, traces the pattern of sunlight on the table with her finger. A loaf of bread, a small pottery cup, a folded cloth, each has its own gentle outline, growing faint as the light shifts. Every change is slow, almost unnoticeable, unless you're still enough to witness it. Their voices are quiet. Sometimes Mary hums, and the sound rises and falls with the breath in the room, swelling as the light brightens, falling when a cloud drifts across. Shadows seem to move with her breath, expanding, contracting, soft and unhurried. A door creaks. Elizabeth's husband, Zechariah, passes through, carrying a small lamp he hasn't yet lit. He nods, then steps back into the fading doorway, leaving another imperfect shape on the wall. The day keeps folding in on itself, letting the shade grow longer, letting the light step aside so that the air can cool. Let this moment stretch. There is no need to rush on from here. In the yard, two doves settle into the olive branches. Their shapes flutter on the stones, restless, then calm. Elizabeth watches their shadows tumble as her own slow breath moves in and out. Even this silence is holy. Mary gets up to fetch some water, her footsteps soft against the ground. The jug is heavier in the afternoon. Each footstep is its own tiny ritual. Heel, toe, pause, set the jug down. When she comes back, a new band of light has crept across the table. They say nothing about it. There's no need. The room has learned how to listen. The sound of a distant child laughing drifts in, carried on the breeze. Then hands pluck ripening figs with delicate snaps. In the cool interior, the two women are still. Their hands rest on their laps. It's as if the day is taking a long inhale, and the shadows swell gently, filling the room with a steady darkness that is somehow soft, not frightening. Let yourself notice these small changes. The way the sun, so bright at midday, now glances off the jug's rim and leaves a thin golden line on the wall. The shadows stretch a little farther, quietly mapping the hours. Mary folds a napkin, sets it in a basket, unfolds it again. Her hands move in slow, certain circles, like tidying for the sake of being gentle. From the doorway, Elizabeth studies her cousin and smiles faintly. There's no hurry for anything. The tasks are small, but they fill the room with meaning, as steady as a heartbeat, as slow and complete as the day turning. Zechariah's shadow falls across the doorway as he returns from outside. He pauses, noticing the shift in light, the color of the room gone to deeper gold. He doesn't speak but lingers in the threshold, letting the cool air brush past. Inside, Mary breathes out, long and slow. Elizabeth echoes her, as if the room itself is teaching them a new kind of patience. Every shadow marks a place of rest. Every band of light, a moment to pause. Let yourself drift here. Let the hush of the afternoon fold over you. There's nothing urgent and nowhere else to be. The house holds its shape, cradled by light and shade, the voices fading to a soft murmur. Outside, the world goes on. Goats shuffle, crows call, bread cools on the sill. But inside, all movement is gentle as afternoon leans into evening. The walls disappear into dusk, and the lines on the floor melt away. The day's breath grows slower. The room grows quiet. You can rest now. The shadows are long, but the night will be longer. Even now, the sun blesses what it leaves behind. Quiet, small, steady moments. The world contracts into stillness, and the story holds you. Let the day's breath move with yours. All is well. All is holy. All you need to do is drift. References. Luke 1:39-56. The path grows quiet in the last blue light. All the footsteps and words have drifted behind. Only the brush of fingertips along the stone wall keeps company now. The garden air still tastes of dew, and as Mary nears the house, she lets her palms slide along old limestone, cool and uneven, each chip made by years of weather and hands like hers. The wooden doorway stands ahead, not grand, not clean, just simple, shaped by usefulness. The planks are different shades, one pale, one brown, one almost gray, pressed together by someone who never hurried. She slows her step and touches the frame, feeling the old splinters, the way the grain moves under her thumb like water flowing. These marks mean comfort to her, evidence of days and days of meals, of visits, of people moving in and out, often unremarked, always received. This threshold is a line she's crossed many times, carrying bread, carrying news, carrying silence. Now she carries only what's inside her, shifting her weight from foot to foot, steadying her breath before the meeting. Even the hinges sound tired as she presses gently. The creak is softer than a whisper. It smells, just inside, of olive oil and the warm stone floor, long comforted by many sandals, dust, and the soaking up of countless shadows. She leans her forehead to the wood for a moment, eyes closed. The coolness seeps in and slows her thinking. It's quiet here, not a holy hush, but simple, the hush of somewhere lived in, swept, mended, used for laughter and for weeping. The night hangs outside the frame, patient and unworried. Inside, Elizabeth hums low, her voice weaving through the rooms. Mary listens, not to the words, but just the vibration of life, small and sure in such solid walls. She lingers at the doorway, her hand pressed flat to the frame, feeling how many welcomes these planks have held, how many times she's knocked and waited, and shared a look with her cousin in the near darkness. There is no hurry. The air is gentle against her hands. The house itself seems half asleep, holding onto the last light. Mary smooths her sleeve. She steps in, leaving her sandals just inside the door, pressing her feet to the cool flagstones. Each stone is a little different, worn smoother in the middle, rougher on the edges, shapes that fit the foot if you stand quietly long enough. She breathes in the ordinary peace. There are folded linen stacked by the wall, a basket of figs, a jug of water left standing by the fire. She trails a fingertip along the table, feeling the roundness of the worn edge, the small notch where a knife slipped many years ago. Her gaze finds a quiet corner where sunlight gathers, spilled across a patch of floor where a cat once dozed. She watches the dust move in the light, slow as sleep. The sound of Elizabeth's voice fades, woven with evening song from somewhere beyond the walls. Mary kneels, folding her wrap for the night. Her hands move unhurried, pressing out the creases with her palms, resting there, feeling the softness, the threads holding firm beneath her skin. She places the linen by her mat and shapes the pillow, smoothing the lines until it is only plain and steady in hers. She sits, breathes in long, then out, lets her shoulders drop, lets her thoughts unfurl, settling into this room, this touch, this night. The lamp flickers, her eyelids grow heavy. There is nothing left but stillness and the quiet hope of being known here. She whispers a simple prayer, "Let peace come with the night." The hush settles over her, gentle as a hand. Soft, folding into the day, stillness holds me. The Lord knows my breath. I am not forgotten. This house remembers me. God walks slowly, too. Grace is here. Sleep grows holy here. Amen. 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 There is a kind of quiet that lives inside certain homes. The morning stretches a little longer. Sunlight lands softly on the floor, tracing shapes that move as slowly as breathing. Today, in the house just over the hill, two women share this quiet. Mary stands in the shadow of the doorway, her shoes dusty from the last bit of road. She holds her hands together, not in prayer but just keeping still. Inside, the table is empty except for a folded cloth, the corner tucked beneath a heavy bowl. Elizabeth sits near the table, her shoulders round from the weight of months, her eyes gentle and awake. She hears a footstep first, a soft pad on the cool clay, and then nothing. Just silence. Not the absence of sound, but the fullness of it. As if the house itself settles for a moment. Elizabeth lifts her head. There is no rush to speak, only the small, careful movements of someone used to making space for others. She lets her gaze rest on Mary, and it is almost like letting a candle burn slow and easy, noticing how the light fills the space between them. Mary stands still and calm, like she was waiting her whole walk for this. She does not need to greet with words just yet. For a while the room holds only the sound of breath, Mary's careful inhale, Elizabeth's long, even exhale, the thick quiet between them, the steady patter of a bird hopping on the sill outside. No hurry here. Elizabeth's fingers smooth the edge of the tablecloth, a soft, worn linen that remembers 100 gentle hands. She does not look down, but her hands remember the motion, folding and unfolding, patient, content to let the silence do the work. A jug stands half filled by the doorway. The cool water inside shifts just a little when someone enters, a sound so small you could miss it, but here it's almost as important as words. Elizabeth reaches for it slowly, pouring water into a chipped cup. No announcement, no welcome, just the soft bump of pottery and the thread of water trickling. Mary takes the cup when it is offered, holding it loosely, letting her hands be warmed by the shape. Let this moment stretch outside. A rooster calls far off. Time slows down. Two women breathe the same air in the same room. There's a sense that this greeting has been waiting, quietly, since long before Mary started her walk. It happens without event, just presence, just being near enough to reach but far enough to honor the hush. Elizabeth stands with care, pressing a hand to her side, the other on the edge of the table. She smiles slow, not wide, the kind of smile that doesn't force anything. Mary matches her, tilting her head in recognition. They do not rush. Even the air between them respects the calm. Each woman searches the other's face for a long moment, as if the blessing could be given by gazing, not speaking. Let even this silence be holy. Nearby, a small stack of folded cloth waits beside a basket. Mary's eyes drift to it, remembering the quiet chores of home, folding, mending, smoothing away the day. She kneels beside the stack, pressing creases with her fingers. Elizabeth moves beside her, her steps unhurried, her presence quiet and easy. They are close but not crowded. Nothing is demanded here. Elizabeth says Mary's name, her voice warm and low, like the sound of rain against a shutter. Mary hears it and closes her eyes. The word lingers, like a hand resting lightly on a back. It is a name spoken in welcome, but also in recognition, a small silent song of belonging. No one notices the prayer, but it is heard. For a moment, neither speaks. The day outside pauses. The quiet inside deepens. Two women share space, breathing patient, no instructions, no speeches, only a greeting that stretches like light falling between their hearts. Elizabeth sits, her hand on her belly, and nods, not to say yes, but because this is all there is to do. Mary presses another fold, shaping linen as she listens. Let the boredom be sacred. The room smells faintly of baking bread, the yeast alive in the silent air. There is dust in the corners. A spider builds its web undisturbed. The world is neither waiting nor watching, it just is. The space between Elizabeth and Mary fills with what's unspoken. Gratitude, perhaps, or simply knowledge that another heart is near. Outside, goats shift in the shade. Someone calls to a neighbor. Daily life goes on. Inside, Mary pours herself another mouthful of cool water, feeling it settle her. Elizabeth hums a low, tuneless note. It is not a hymn, nor meant for anyone to hear. It is just what it sounds like when comfort has a voice. Let stillness do the work. Mary sets the last linen aside. Elizabeth watches her hands quiet. They sit on the floor now near the basket. It could be any morning, just a cousin visiting, just two women resting. Nothing grand, nothing important. And yet, it feels as if night itself would pause at the threshold, unwilling to interrupt. The sun moves, and the patch of light on the floor slides closer. Mary stretches her toes toward its edge. Elizabeth draws her shawl a bit tighter, and together they settle into the drift of late morning. Words wait their turn. All greetings spoken are an echo of this one, simple, calm, and long enough to soften even the tiredest heart. Even this slow moment is enough. Their lives were changing, though no one could see it. Their bones steady, their voices quiet. They know only what is in front of them. A warm hand, a steady voice, a place to pause and breathe. Later, maybe, there will be more to say. For now, the only lesson is presence. All the holy things are hidden inside these gentle chores, these slow greetings, this quiet. Let the night hold you as these women hold each other, patient and kind, breathing and waiting, resting in the ordinary. Nothing more is needed. Nothing less will do. The house was quiet for a long while. After the first greetings had softened, there was just the slow sound of feet and voices in the kitchen. Nothing hurried, nothing planned. Just two women moving the same way as if they had always shared a room. Every day the little table stood in the corner where the sun came in. Today they set it together. A bowl of oil, heavy and gold, settled between them. The bread, flat, warm from a mild fire, waited on a simple plate. There was fruit, too. Figs sliced soft as dusk and placed where anyone might reach. No one spoke about being hungry. Still, hands moved. The making was slow, like the time between breaths. Mary pressed her palm into the bread, breaking it open. It barely made a sound. Elizabeth poured the oil in gentle, slow circles. You could watch the lines glide across the bread, shining, then sinking in. The fruit lay quiet and sweet. Each piece was lifted and lowered as if the meal itself was breathing. Their quiet filled the room just as much as the food. Folds of cloth shifted with each movement. Mary leaned back. Elizabeth smiled quietly, eyes kind. There was no need for words, really. Most things get said anyway between long pauses and small smiles. Let this moment stretch. Let it move as slowly as a peaceful night. In the stillness, the world outside faded to a softer place, just two women and oil and bread. They breathed in, setting each piece down with care. They breathed out, dust curling around bare feet. Every action called the listener gently back to their own breath, breaking bread, slow and steady, pouring oil, the soft weight of fruit in your hand. There is room here to rest. Even if you drift away, nothing will be missed. Companionship can be this simple. Sometimes the light bent across the table, painting golden lines around the baked bread. Someone reached for a slice, not because she was hungry, just because it felt right. Someone else broke off a bit and handed it over quietly. Needs are often met before anyone asks. No one noticed the dusk passing outside. It wasn't important. The air in the house held them. They ate. They laughed softly so nothing would shatter. They drank cool water, passing the cup hand to hand. Every mouthful was slow, every motion gentle. If there were stories, they floated up between mouthfuls and fell away again. There was no hurry to finish. When you are together like this, finishing is never the goal. Bread breaks, oil glows, fruit gives its sweetness. You remember to breathe. Let this moment linger. Let your body soften. You don't have to understand it. You can just let it settle like a quiet hand resting on yours. Somewhere in another quiet house long ago, two women did the same. They asked for nothing, still felt full. It was the sort of afternoon everyone forgets. Light collecting in the corners, shadows stretched thin beneath the olive trees. I was folding laundry by the courtyard, not really listening. The way you don't listen when your hands remember each task for you. The two of them, Mary and Elizabeth, were talking quietly inside, where the light was cool and made their voices smaller. Most of the house was dozing, that hour when nothing needs you except the flies at the window. Even the goats sounded tired. You could hear their footsteps, light, then heavier, soft on the packed ground. There are some moments that circle back on themselves, curling in the stillness after they happen. Like you almost felt it, or maybe you only imagined it. You can't quite tell, but either way you hold it gently because it asks nothing more. It happened then. A pause, a smile. Mary's eyes bright, Elizabeth leaning against the doorframe, and something inside her changed. But so quietly you might have missed it if you were sweeping or pouring water. I remember Elizabeth's hand on her belly, pressing just a little, the way someone double-checks if a loaf of bread has finished rising. She didn't say anything, not right away. Just turned, glanced at Mary, a flicker of surprise passing between them. No loud exclamations, no trumpet joy, only quiet waiting to see if the moment was real. Most days are nothing but waiting. You sit, you shift, you listen for what isn't said. The air felt cooler than it should have, sweet with bread and time. I think even Mary breathed slower, just standing there steady, her hands hidden inside her shawl. Their eyes met, patient, searching, soft. The way you look at someone when the world outside is too bright and you want them to know you see them, truly see them, but with no need to say a word. The old bench creaked beneath Elizabeth as she sat, touching her belly again, still not speaking. Mary stepped closer, rested her hand nearby, not really touching. They watched the sunlight on the floor. I could hear a sparrow brushing crumbs from the windowsill. I could feel the pause holding all of us, like a long, gentle breath no one wanted to end. For a moment I thought I saw tears on Elizabeth's cheeks, not from sadness or even joy, but something deeper. Relief, recognition. It was like a hand had wordlessly pressed comfort onto both women at once. Time felt slippery. The afternoon kept going, but a new stillness settled in the room. A ripple that lingered longer than it should have, like the warmth left after a hug. They spoke finally, but so quietly I could barely hear. Elizabeth gave a blessing, whispered, not for the room but just for Mary. The words felt soft, like the hush between heartbeats. No one else moved. Mary hummed something. Barely a song, really low, steady, like when you soothe a baby who hasn't been born yet. It rested in the air, softer than the dust, deeper than the pause. Some moments are small enough to fit in your palm. This one might have fit inside a cup or the shadow beneath it. No one called for celebration. No one even looked up. The leaping, if you could call it that, stirred more silence than sound, and still the room felt more full than ever before. The day stretched on, uneventful and lovely. The world, unchanged on the surface, became, somehow, more spacious inside. Let the stillness linger. Let your own breath be slow and wide. Even the smallest ripple can fill a house with hidden joy. Even now, the silence remembers. The air inside Elizabeth's home felt heavy, but not crowded. It was the kind of heaviness that settles in before the rain comes, a fullness that didn't press, only covered like a blanket. There were clay cups on the table, a loaf of yesterday's bread tucked inside a cloth, and Mary's hands folded in her lap, still and patient. Elizabeth stood close, her shoulders softened with the ache of carrying, her breath slow. She didn't speak for a while. She only watched Mary, her eyes gentle, as if she could see both the girl and what waited quietly inside her. Outside, a goat called once and then went quiet again. The moment for blessing came quietly, not in a rush, not with a grand gesture, just the slow rise and fall of Elizabeth's chest, a hand resting lightly on the stone counter for balance. Her voice was low, near a whisper, meant only for the walls and the air between. "You are so very blessed," she said, not like declaring news, more like admitting what the dawn has always known. Mary didn't answer. She just listened. Her eyelids fluttered once, then fell. Elizabeth's words followed slowly, one after another, as if she was drawing water from a deep well. "Blessed are you and the small one within you." Blessed, she stopped there, letting the word hang until it softened. No one needed to fill the silence between them. There was more weight in the hush than in anything spoken aloud. Even the air seemed to thicken, gentle and warm. Mary sat with her hands open, palms up, and let the blessing settle. She could feel her own breathing, heavy and slow. There was nothing to do but rest in it. Not even prayer this time, just breathing and being in the quiet presence of another woman who also waited. There wasn't much to say. That's what felt safest. Elizabeth's words felt like rain beginning on a rooftop, a low, steady promise heard while lying under covers. It was not instruction or explanation, just sound and safety. The day did not rush forward. The sun stayed behind the hill a little longer, as if wanting to hear the whispered blessing too. The world outside kept its distance, a gentle world for once. Even the birds seemed slower. Sometimes the most holy thing is just letting a moment be. Elizabeth waited with Mary and with God, and with the secret life growing in both their bodies. Neither asked for more. Their silence made the room safe enough for hope to grow. The words didn't need to be remembered. They weren't the kind that changed villages or started stories. But Mary would wake sometimes, months later, with their quiet stillness heavy on her chest, and know that a blessing did not need to be loud or full of teaching to last. Her song began the way a breeze might begin, moving through tall, dry grass, gentle and unnoticed at first. The air in the courtyard felt steady and cool after the morning's walk, a subtle rhythm, like a calming hand. Mary didn't stand to sing. She stayed seated on the worn stone, pulling her shawl tighter around her shoulders. The linen felt soft, already carrying the faint warmth of sunlight. She touched her stomach just once, a small, inward gesture, as if promising herself to remember this feeling, full and empty at the same time, weightless and waiting. Beside her, Elizabeth rinsed out a wooden bowl. Water fell in slow, steady drops. No one hurried. Nothing urgent pressed in on the day. It was still early, the household barely stirring, and outside the window a wild dove called over the fields, a low, uniform sound folding itself into the hush. It would have been easy not to notice a song at all. Mary's voice never rose above a murmur. The sound, closer to humming than words, drifted just beneath the breath. If you listened, it was like hearing something moving far off, hidden in the leaves, a gentle vibration traveling through air, not needing to name itself. The tune held no melody you could recall. It wandered like a soft tide coming in. Now and then her lips shaped a word, grace, mercy, remembered, but mostly the air itself seemed to carry the meaning. The sound was almost the same as silence, only softer, as if what mattered was the hum inside every quiet thing. You could feel it in your ribs, in the heavy dusk of your eyelids. Elizabeth listened with her hands still in the water. Her body stilled, even her breathing seemed to slow, as if the little one within her knew how to wait and listen too. There was no hurry. Let this moment stretch. Let the sound settle into the cracks of the day. A neighbor's gate clicked shut. Far away, two children argued over a piece of bread and then went quiet, their voices joining the woven hush all around. The sun angled low over the fields, turning the dust in the air to gold. Mary's song was not a performance. It was simply an offering to the silence, a soft rhythm for her own bones. Even the words, when they came, felt more like breathing. My soul is resting with you. My heart feels full, nothing missing, nothing needed. You see the little ones. You lift up the quiet. You remember me. A breeze shifted the linen drying on the line. The far-off bleat of a goat reminded everyone that life moved on. Chores didn't change. Still, the space lingered open, inviting, untouched by worry. Even this silence is holy, you thought, even this breath. You could almost imagine the song as warmth rising slowly from the clay floor, settling into the cracks. It vibrated in the air, low and steady, as if reminding everyone, you are safe here and nothing is required but rest. Mary's hands rested in her lap. She closed her eyes, not from exhaustion, but just to feel the inside of the moment more fully, like pressing your hand into cool bread dough and letting it rise gently around your palm. No one asked for more. Elizabeth rose with the bowl, setting it aside. She paused, then knelt beside Mary on the cold mosaic floor. There were no grand gestures, just knees and elbows settling where they fit, shoulders pressing together. The oil lamp flickered slightly as the air moved, but its yellow circle stayed steady. Elizabeth's hand found Mary's, a palm pressed gently as if to anchor her. No words had to fill the gap. Even their breathing, lived in the same rhythm, slow and deep as the earth under the house. Let the quiet grow wider. Let the night listen with you. Mary resumed her humming, lower still, until it barely touched the surface of sound. The house seemed to relax. If you had drifted off then, you'd carry the hum inside you, soft, settling, steady enough to keep you floating until morning. Occasionally, Mary let the words come out, honest and soft. He does not forget the lowly. He fills the hungry. He keeps his promise. He stays with Israel. He is close. Even in sleep, he is close. There was humility in her song, not as a lesson, but as a simple truth felt beneath the surface, like the weight of fresh sheets on tired shoulders, the way dust drifts until it lands quietly and belongs. The baby in Elizabeth's womb turned, a small motion, more vibration than kick. She smiled, looking out the window where the light was already fading into cool blue. No one hurried. Nothing needed finishing. After a while, Elizabeth began to hum too, layering her voice under Mary's. Two soft currents intertwining, almost formless, harmonic mostly because they shared the same air, like wind passing twice through the same open door. These words and sounds, Mary's song and Elizabeth's breath, became simply part of the house for a while. The animals outside grew quiet, the dishes stilled. Even the old olive tree, heavy with late fruit, seemed to listen, its leaves almost unmoving in the gentle air. Let this moment be a long exhale. Nothing lost, nothing left undone. Even if you close your eyes and drift, the lull will hold. The song will keep weaving its way through the air. Mary finished not with a word or a gesture, but by letting the vibration fade. After the hum, there was only the small sound of air moving through the house, a sign that the Lord's peace had padded softly in and made itself a place, like a visitor satisfied to simply sit and stay a while. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. Tired feet would stand and move again before too long, but for now there was only this low song, shared breath, and the hush of holy presence drifting deeper, right alongside you as you rest. Let the sound carry you now, easy as breathing. The quiet is full, grace is here. Amen, amen, amen. The room is slow with daylight blurred and patient across the tile. Mary stands at the long, low table, flour dust drifting onto her fingers. Elizabeth is near the hearth, warm oil swirling in a clay bowl. Their talk is low, almost nothing at all, really. Most of the time, there is just the sound of stone against grain, the gentle thunk, 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 as the pestle moves in circles, crushing seeds into meal. It isn't hurrying. There's nowhere to be. The stones echo the soft breath of the house. The simple rhythm is steady, steady like a heartbeat. Mary's sleeves drop past her wrists as she folds the linen, pull, shake, smooth, the same again. She folds a cloth corner over and presses it down, feeling the softness with her palm. The home is small, but in the quiet it feels wide. Every little motion has gentle space to breathe. Elizabeth hums not a song, not a hymn, just the kind of tune that springs up when the day is long and your hands are working. Sometimes the wind will stir behind the shutters and both women pause, just to listen to what's outside, carried in on cool air. Then the work picks up where it left off. No one speaks, but you can hear care in every motion. There are lentils in a shallow pan. Mary sorts them, one by one just to be sure. Rounded edge, smooth, into the bowl. Wrinkled one set aside. The bowl fills slowly, almost the way sleep comes bit by bit. The tasks pass between them with barely a word. Wet a cloth, wipe the stone. Pour oil, stir once, twice, let it rest. The day goes quietly, footsteps across swept earth, the soft knock of a pitcher on the rim of the well outside, water caught and poured, clear and bright. Every repetition is gentle as a breath. There's a comfort in doing what needs to be done together. They do not rush or try to finish. The work is its own reason, its own rest. Elizabeth lifts a jar and Mary holds open the door. The sunlight moves across the floor, marking time only by the slow drift of dust in the air. You can almost hear the beating of their hearts, not quick but steady, like the turning of the millstone. There's nothing urgent here. They are just in the day, in the work together. Even as their arms grow tired, there is a peace in each motion. Fold, set down, breathe. Pour, stir, lean back. Nobody notices how many times they do the same thing, and somehow, the world is held up by these small, repeated acts. Sometimes the soft slip of patterned cloth in Mary's hands reminds her of home, but she doesn't say it. She just smooths another napkin into its place. Elizabeth wipes flour off the table. She watches the white marks vanish, only to reappear, gentle as clouds on her hands. A laugh comes and goes, quiet, not sharp, just a thread between them. They do not need many words. This is not a day for deep talk. Stillness gathers in the corners. You can let it gather too, grinding, folding, stirring. Every movement is a small kindness, repeating. In ordinary work, something sacred lives. Not in the miracle, but in the steady, small acts that make the day gentle. The world keeps breathing as they do. Let these little motions stretch out, one after another, until even you forget where you end and the quiet work begins. Evening moves soft across the courtyard. The stones cool beneath bare feet, finally letting go of the heat from the sun. I hear the breath of the house change. The air is slower now, quieter. It feels like the walls are exhaling and the garden inhales the night. A gentle breeze slips in through the gate, nothing grand, just a slow-moving comfort, carrying the very last of the day's warmth away. The sky overhead is a pillow of deep blue. Not dark yet, not even really night, just resting between. A few birds speak to each other across the rooftops, short, sleepy sounds, no hurry, only the promise of sleep. I breathe out with them, long and easy. Inhale what's new and cool, exhale the old, warm air of the day. Mary stands by the olive tree, her shawl drawn close but not tight. She's just breathing, too, nothing to say, not now. Her gaze drifts to the far corner where a pot sits half filled with water. It isn't time to fetch it. There's no need. Everything that matters is already here. Elizabeth is sitting by the threshold, right where the light of the house meets the world outside. Her hands rest in her lap. She isn't working for once. Her breath is steady, long in, slow out. The two women speak, but not with words. Sometimes the quiet is so rich, there's no need to fill it. The sound of voices from inside the house drifts out into the courtyard. They're muffled now, gentled by the dusk. Someone is folding cloth, the rhythm soft and easy. There's an easy patience everywhere, nothing urgent, nothing left undone. Every now and then Mary shifts her feet. The stone is cool, but it feels good, reminding you that you're here in this moment. The breeze touches her cheek and she closes her eyes for just a breath. Inhale, the cool night. Exhale, the warm day. Again and again. I sit near the wall where I can feel both the last rays of sunlight and the chill that means night will not be rushed. My hands are still, no tasks to finish, not now. I let the air go in, slow and steady, then let it go and everything loosens. Even the goats in their pen are quiet. Even the fig tree is quietly full of shadows. Elizabeth breathes in, holds it longer, the way someone does when they're remembering something kind. Her hand drifts to her belly. Her eyes meet Mary's and both of them smile, the kind that doesn't change their faces much, except for the softness in their eyes. There's peace here, a peace built out of not needing to do anything at all. Let this moment stretch, inhale the night air, exhale the day behind you. There's nothing you have to hold on to now. The stars are quietly gathering somewhere high above, even if we can't see them yet. They wait with us, patient and small. Inside, there's the quiet thump of bread dough, but no one is in a hurry. Windows stand open, curtains giving in to the slow-moving air. I think sometimes these walls have seen everything, the tears, the laughter, the worries and the prayers. Now the house just listens, like the night listens. No one says a word, and yet something important is happening. But it's gentle, like the feeling of cold water on a tired face or the hush after a long walk. Mary and Elizabeth are only women, and tonight they are only here. I watch them keep each other company in the plainest way. A knee leaned against the stone bench, fingers wrapped around a clay pitcher, heads tilted in understanding. No miracles, no strangers at the door, just the simple companionship of being together when the light goes. Rest here, nothing matters but this breath. A swallow lands on the garden wall, silent as a prayer, feathers puffed. It tucks its head under its wing and the world stays gentle. In the silence, it's as if God breathes with us. Inhale the cool coming, exhale what's gone. Elizabeth finally speaks, but it's barely louder than the wind. "Peace to this house," she says. Mary nods and the words slide into the dusk, easy and sure. Nothing more is needed. The night will carry them. Another breeze pushes through, curling around the door and across the courtyard. It smells just a little of rosemary and new earth. With every breath, the courtyard settles deeper into evening. Mary hums, a low, steady sound, almost more felt than heard. The song isn't for teaching. It's just her hands remembering an old melody, the kind sung by mothers when the world is changing around them. Let this silence fill you. I close my eyes and the air feels full. Not with answers or big promises, just with enough breath for now. Inhale, feel the newness of the evening. Exhale, let your shoulders drop, let your thoughts leave. The courtyard is still. The only movement is settling, birds finding corners, the night cool rolling over stone, hands letting go of everything they carried. Elizabeth stands and stretches, not rushed, and Mary opens her hands to the sky, palms up. Peace is a language here. They don't need to say, "Be still," because everything already is. Let the stillness do the work, the night deepens, and all that's left is this gentle companionship, the kind that lingers and comforts, even if no one notices. The only thing louder than silence is the sound of the breeze as it carries the prayers and the sleep toward morning. Let that be enough. Rest. Even this silence is holy. Night settles slowly here, as it always does. There is no rush past the doorway, just a gentle folding of day into evening. The sky fades, turning soot blue, and the courtyard stones hold the last memory of sun. Inside there is quiet work. A bowl is set down. A shawl is folded, again, this small effort shaping softness for later. The air is cool but gentle. No one is in a hurry. Elizabeth's hand finds the lamp by habit. It has waited all day, standing plain and unnoticed. A simple little vessel, chipped at one edge, but still it holds the oil. The wick, a twisted linen, thin as a finger, curls quietly in its bed. Everything slows down here. There is only the movement of hands, the breath of quiet voices lying low. Mary watches, sitting cross-legged close enough to see but not interrupt. Her own hands have been busy with nothing, a loose thread, rolling it between her fingers, letting time drift. Elizabeth pours oil just enough to soak the base of the wick. It makes a faint sound like a whisper. A match is struck. For a moment the world seems to wait. The flame arrives small, like it might choose not to stay. It maps a little circle of gold on the wall. Shadows curl around it, shy and slow. They do not menace. They only move with the light, gentle in the corners. Flicker, the flame leans, catching the soft current of the air like breath. Glow, it steadies, holding the shape of the room, making every edge gentler, every color low and warm. Fade, it dims, then brightens again. Flicker, glow, fade. You could fall asleep watching just that, no story, no speech. Just the little shifting light where the women sit quiet. Just this, their feet are tucked beneath them. No one speaks. The house is not cold, not empty, but peaceful in its waiting. A bowl is passed, bread is broken. Even that feels slow and kind. Mary's eyes are soft, caught by the movement, the gold dust moving at the edge of the lamp glass. In the stillness, her heart is not alone. Elizabeth lets her hands rest. There is nothing left to do tonight but sit, listen, and be warmed by a small, steady glow. When you find yourself drifting, let this image go with you. A flame blooming in dusk, asking for nothing. Flicker, glow, fade. Let it anchor your mind as you sleep. There are no loud places here. The world can wait outside. This hush, this simple firelight is enough. It is how the quiet keeps its promise, how sacred things slip in, so softly you almost miss them. Even the darkness is gentle here. Even the shadows just want to rest. Tonight, let your heart drift with them. The lamp will keep the edge of the night, and you, for as long as you need. The clay bowl stayed warm long after the porridge had gone cold. Mary's fingertips idly circled along the rim as morning light crept across the courtyard stones. Thin, silent, unremarkable beams turning dust to gold for a few heartbeats, then slipping away. Elizabeth was near the window, pulling the last thread through a woolen cloth. Her needle moved slowly, not for the sake of neatness, but because the air itself was slow today. No words filled the space between them, but something gentle did. Somewhere out in the village, a child squealed at a goat's stubbornness, and the hills woke with distant birds. There were chores waiting. Two baskets leaned together by the door, half filled with figs and not yet covered with linen. But here, in this cool room, Mary's voice barely rose above breath. My mother sang that psalm when I was small, the one about the Lord being our sure place. She spoke as if she might not finish the thought, as if it could dissolve into sunlight if spoken too clearly. Elizabeth nodded. Her eyes met Mary's just briefly, gentle and tired. There is help under the shadow of his wings, she murmured, her words trailing off as if quoting someone she heard long ago. She didn't need to mention a number or recite every line. Fragments were enough. familiar shapes soft like old cloth, safe in their incompleteness. They let the quiet fill again. Outside, a small wind nudged the door. It meant nothing. It just happened, like breathing. Mary set aside the bowl, pressed her palm to her belly, and exhaled a slow, steady sound, almost a hymn in itself. Elizabeth closed her eyes and let the needle rest. Somewhere faint in her memory, voices rose from the synagogue. He is merciful, slow to anger, abounding in love. They weren't sentences now, only pieces. Flakes of bread left on the table after prayer. Sometimes I forget how it goes, Mary whispered, but it comes back in the rhythm. She tapped out a heartbeat against the tabletop, like when we kneaded dough and my mother hummed. Yes, Elizabeth smiled. When you're not listening for it, that's when it finds you, like water still hidden in the well. The women sat in the quiet a while. The only work was remembering, not as scholars, just as women in a plain house with new life inside them, letting small words roll back and forth, having nowhere better to go. Elizabeth looked to the sky through the window, her lips moving without voice. The Lord is my shepherd. Silence caught her just then. The rest lingered, silent and whole, needing nothing added. Mary hummed, a note low as evening thunder, I shall not want. Her eyes softened. She watched a patch of dust drift across her skirt, swirling when she shifted her knees. The two sat, not teaching, not rehearsing, only living. Scripture lived too, not sharp or bright, but rounded like river stones worn by time. Pieces fell into the empty space. He restores, he leads beside. Elizabeth's hand rested on her womb, where movement had stilled again. Even though, she whispered, I walk through, she let the rest fade, trusting it would float in the silence, the way air holds scent after olive oil is poured. Mary pressed her shoulder into the cool wall, eyes closed. You are with me, she whispered, barely sound. Then nothing. No need to finish a promise that never left her. Faint steps passed outside. Maybe a cousin. Maybe a neighbor's boy running late for errands. It didn't matter. Inside, two women remembered together. Not reciting, not declaring, just letting scraps of old prayers rise like steam off morning bread. Their day was made of these loose threads. Sunlight in through the shutters, a shadow across the earth floor, a shared glance, a memory quietly offered and let go. Scripture lay over them like a well-worn shawl, not bright or new, but trusted and nearly forgotten, until it returned again. Elizabeth's voice, barely more than air, floated between them. Blessed, trust in the Lord. She didn't force the blessing into daylight. It was allowed to remain half-remembered, drifting. Mary's hand circled on her belly, feeling a gentle turning within. I used to be afraid of forgetting, she said, eyes unfocused. But I think God remembers, even when I don't. Elizabeth laughed softly, not amused, just soothed. That's why he writes it on our hearts instead of stone, so we can never fully lose it. A breeze pressed the curtain, fluttering it wide, then quiet again. Dusk glinted in the beam, hovering motionless. The baskets by the door could wait. So could the goats, the water from the well, the midday bread. For now Scripture came in pieces, faithfulness to all generations, sometimes simply humming, sometimes letting the words fall away entirely, trusting they would return on their own. They didn't correct each other or remind each other of the next verse. There was no rush to finish a thought. Companionship lived in the unfinished fragments, like seeds hidden in furrows, not yet asking to be named. Softness settled in with the deepening quiet. Mary brushed a stray hair behind her ear. Elizabeth set her mending aside for good, hands folded empty in her lap. The hour passed gently. Footsteps faded in the yard. Light shifted, cooling, yet still the presence lingered as close as the sound of their own breath. A psalm was there, but only a shadow. You keep me in peace. Mary, nearly asleep against the wall, barely managed. When I lie down, Elizabeth finished, quieter still. You are near. The two sat, eyes heavy, nothing left to say. Every echo was enough. For here, in the soft remembering, God rested with them. All was quiet. All was kept, and the lull of Scripture, not a lesson, just the comfort of having heard it before, wove its gentle hush around mother and child, around cousin and friend, until night and peace became the same thing. The last colors of the day fade quietly, as if someone is gently pinching the wick of a candle. Lamps are lowered, one by one, and their shine blends into the dim blue of the room. No one announces the night, but everyone knows it's here. A basket of towels sits at the end of the low bench. My hands move in slow folds, edge to edge, taking their time. Each cloth is soft from the day's work. They remember water, sun, bread, oil, the ordinary weight of serving. I pause often, pressing fabric flat with practiced palms. The motion is not special, but it feels final, wrapping the day into smaller, safer shapes. Some stacks wobble. Some napkins shrink in the edges. No one minds. There's comfort in letting things be as they are. I watch the way the linen bends under my hand, how the threads yield, not with resistance, but as if they've always known how to obey a gentle touch. Across the small courtyard, someone closes a shutter softly. The wood thuds, muffled by the night. A kettle is tipped over, pouring the last water from its mouth. Cups clink, almost whispering to be left alone. Even the air in the house feels ready for sleep, emptier now, as if the windows have breathed out with relief. Work is not hurried here. Nobody speaks of what is left undone. We gather the spoons, the leftover crumbs, the folded napkins, small tasks tucked away like secrets told only to the dark. My feet kneel on cool stone, toes curling under the loose hem of my robe. A cricket scrapes its wings just outside the door, a tiny sound not noticed by anyone but me. Now the basket is full. I press the top cloth slow and flat, using both hands, and set it by the wall. My arms rest in my lap. It is enough. My heart feels like these folded linens, worn from the day but covered, settled. All the bustling is behind me, smoothed into soft piles, not needing anything more from me tonight. Someone draws the last curtain. The corners meet, soft, quiet, forgiving. The home folds in on itself, holding only the people and the silence. I watch the dark grow, stretching slowly over stones and shelves, climbing the wall like sleep climbs the body, late, gentle, unstoppable. I sit a moment longer. There's nothing urgent now. Stillness stretches out, a new kind of company. No one asks for words. My knees relax. My mind lets go. Thoughts tip over and settle like bowls left to dry in the shadows. I can hear my own breath, steady and calm, folding in, slowing down. The night does not need to be filled up. My hands are empty now. It's all right to rest. Everything finds its place in this softness, cloth, arms, heart. The room sighs, as if forgiving every undone thing. Even the air, settling deeper into corners, feels like a gentle hand on my neck. Soon I'll go to my mat on the floor. The ground will welcome me, body yielding to weight, limbs uncurling, eyes sinking shut with the comfort of being held. There is nothing left for the day to ask of me. The folding is finished. The night is here. Let this quiet spill over you tonight. Let your worries bend and settle like linen under steady hands. Let your heart fold softly into its own gentle place. Let the silence hold you until morning. All is well. The Lord is near. Stillness will watch with you tonight until you yield to sleep. The oil lamps were low on the table. The blue dusk wavered at the edge of the clay courtyard, quiet as water in a bowl. Mary and Elizabeth could have spoken, but no one needed to. There was a peace that came with the end of the day. Elizabeth smoothed her skirt with her palms. The fabric made a dry, gentle sound. Mary tucked her feet beneath her, breathing in the scent of baked bread and cool stone. Outside, the earth was still, a dish and cup resting on the steps. Someone's cloak brushed the doorway, but gently, and then there was only silence again. Everyday things waited, untouched and unhurried. A jug at the well, a loaf torn for breakfast. The whole house inhaled, then rested. In this small place, God's promise was folded into the hush, not rushed. Elizabeth's hand rested on her belly. Mary's gaze softened, her face turned just so that the last of the sun caught the curve of her cheek. They shared the kind of closeness that didn't need speaking. No need to frame hopes or worries tonight. Both of them simply knew. A moth drifted in the corners, tapping now and then. It left a small patch of shadow flickering against the wall. Silent air moved through the open door, and Mary felt the coolness against her arms. She did not shiver. The women sat like that for a long while, not measuring time, not thinking of the miles Mary had walked or the questions waiting in the morning. Their shadows blurred together on the floor. When eyes grew tired, neither one moved to stand. There was, for once, nothing pulling them away. The world outside the house was dark now, save for the faint, golden line at the horizon. Somewhere, a sheep made a low sound, barely more than a breath. The hush pulled deeper. Mary shifted just enough to rest her head against the rough stone of the wall. Elizabeth looked almost asleep, her lips parted in a half-smile, her eyes soft and far away. They listened to the quiet, to the comfort in one another's company. The miracle, whatever it was, sat safely in the next room, needing nothing tonight. Mary let her hand fall open, resting on the cool tile. Elizabeth reached over and, without looking, let her fingers gently cover Mary's. The touch was light, like setting down a folded cloth, just enough to feel real. They both inhaled, long and slow, long enough for Mary to count the rise and fall of her chest, long enough for Elizabeth to forget the ache in her back and the weight of tomorrow. Nothing was asked for. Everything was simply allowed. The small house sounded larger in the quiet. An owl called from the olive trees. One of the dogs shifted on the doorstep. The air felt honest, not forced to be holy. Elizabeth let her head rest back. She closed her eyes and a line of hair slipped down her cheek. Mary watched her, feeling safe inside the hush. Stillness is sometimes a way of keeping company. The two women watched the lamp burn down. They watched the silence fill up every corner. No words needed blessing. No lesson was tucked into the air. God was here. In the way hands stayed close, in the gentle patience of waiting for sleep. Across the courtyard, someone closed a shutter. Two quiet heartbeats kept time. Mary heard her own child shift within. She heard Elizabeth breathe softly, deeply. Nothing was wrong. Nothing was hurried. The story kept itself alive in what went unsaid. God held the house together, invisible as the night air. The women stayed this way until the lamp burned low. The last drop of oil flickered. Elizabeth stood, slow and careful, shifting her weight like she carried a secret. She brushed Mary's arm in passing, a farewell with no drama. Mary smiled, barely moving her lips. A blessing didn't need to be spoken. One went to the back room, the other to a mat by the wall. The doorways flickered with lamplight, blue and amber. Cloth shifted. Straw rustled. Both women lay down with breaths that matched, falling into sleep beside God's long-held promise. Nothing more to do, nothing more to say. Companionship tonight is as quiet as moonlight through a window. Sleep is not empty. It is full of company. Empty places are just places God sits with us until morning. Let the silence linger. This is holy to sleep, and let each moment stretch. The Lord knows your rest. You do not have to be brave here or wise, just as you are enough. The night listens with you. Let go once, then let go again. Peace can be this gentle. The miracle waits for morning. The last bit of dusk gave way to night quietly. Mary's day in the hill country found its humble close. Stone walls turned dark. The little house folded back into silence. The sweep of the courtyard carried nothing but the slow hush of cool air as she drew the wooden door gently shut. A faint clatter, her sandals left at the edge, waiting for morning. She paused, her hand resting on the frame, feeling the wood smooth beneath her palm, hearing the small latch click. All the day's walking rested now in her legs. She didn't count the hours. They felt soft and unseen, like a garment she could lay aside. Inside there were no lamps to fuss with, just the soft memory of laughter in the other room, and the sound of deep, even breathing shaping the quiet. Mary set her shawl near the low cushion. She folded a cloth she had carried, smoothing the corners. She leaned her head against the warmth of a sun-baked stone wall, listening to nothing in particular. The hush became her blanket. The hush became prayer. She did not need to speak much. She only whispered, "Stay with me, Lord, even into the night." Windows left open to the darkness drew in a night breeze. Another slow exhale. The scent of bread lingered, and a few distant sheep called from the next field. Let this moment stretch, she thought. Let the silence unfold wide enough for even her smallest hopes. There was no hurry. Only the sound of her breathing joined by the house's gentle stillness. The day slipped away. Mary rested, unspectacular. No one noticed her prayer, but it was heard. Stillness holds me. The Lord knows my breath. I am not forgotten. God walks slowly, too. Grace is here. I am safe in the quiet, and my heart is known. Softness surrounds me. Tomorrow can wait. Amen. Amen. Amen.